6:30, so I'd like to call a January meeting of Montgomery County Fire and Rescue Commission to order. So let's say Happy New Year to everybody and appreciate you coming out on this cold night. Ms. Hill, would you open us with a prayer tonight?
I'll be glad to. Let us pray. Father, we just thank you that we can all be here to get this evening gathered together, and that we thank you for each one of the people that are here and their families and loved ones and all that they are willing to do to serve the community and put their time and efforts into this really important work. And I just pray that you'll watch over each one of them and protect them and care for them. We ask these things in your name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Public address. Do we have anybody to address the commission? The minutes were sent from last meeting, were sent out in an email. Floor will be open for a motion for approval.
So move. Second.
Motion made and seconded for approval of the minutes. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved as recorded. Thank you, Bob. Okay. Next item on the agenda tonight is elections for the chair, vice chair, and secretary. Chief Hanks, do you want to take over for part of that?
Except anyone have a nomination for chair of the Fire and Rescue Commission?
I nominate Steve Shue.
Steve Shugler's been nominated. Any further recommendations for chair of Fire and Rescue Commission? Any further recommendations for chair of Fire and Rescue Commission? Hearing none, all in favor of Steve Shugler for Fire and Rescue Commission chair, say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Congratulations, Mr. Chair.
Thank you guys. I'll say again, it is an honor to serve in this capacity and to rub shoulders with all you guys. It is an honor. Floor is now open for nominations for the office of vice chair.
Thanks.
Chief Hanks is nominated. Any further nominations? Any further nominations? I hear motion that nominations be closed.
I move that they be closed. Sorry.
All in favor of Chief Hanks as vice chair, signify by saying aye. Opposed?
Thank you very
Chief
much.
Hanks is vice chair. Thank you.
Thank you.
Office of Secretary. Do I hear nominations for the office of Secretary?
Miss Bonnie.
I'll second that. Any further nominations? Any further nominations? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Bonnie will be our secretary once again. Thank you for serving. Meeting dates for 2026. I think the main one we have a question on is the December meeting. November, we typically do not meet and try to combine the November, December together. Is there
Mr. Chair, the February meeting falls during the week of Fire and Rescue Conference at Virginia Beach. I'm not sure how many people will be planning on attending. I know I will be there for a fire board meeting. But the commission's pleasure, we could reschedule that meeting, or you guys could have the meeting.
Does the June meeting conflict with the convention as well?
Conference. This weekend or second
It's
week?
Father's Day. It's the 19th, 20th.
It's the Southwest Conference. Southwest Conference is the 18th, 19th, and 20th.
June? Should we move to the second Thursday in February and the second Thursday in June? Does that work?
For me, if it works for everyone else.
So February the 12th and June the 11th? December, I kinda feel like the 17th is a little too close to the holiday. Maybe the 10th would. Is that agreeable to you guys?
So we did this year.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So the 10th. Is everybody good with that? February the 12th, March 19th, May 21st, June the 11th, July 16th, August the 20th, September 17th, October 15th, no meeting in November, and December the 10th. Floor's open for a motion for setting meeting dates for 2026.
So move.
Here a second.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed? Meeting dates are set for 26. Administrative reports, Supervisor Kitts.
I'm not saying we got a bunch of stuff we gotta go over, so I will pass it on down the line so we can get to going on this stuff.
Right. Ms. Hill?
Happy New Year, everyone. Thank you guys for all that you're doing. I know we're gonna talk about the budget in a little while, and I just wanted to give you a little bit of information, not to really have a big impact on what you're gonna talk about tonight, but just to let you know where the county stands right now. We've had several years of a whole lot of revenue growth from new construction and things like that, sales tax going up and that kind of thing. And the year that we're getting ready to plan for, fiscal year 2027, looks like it's gonna be much more like it used to be, which is much lower, so the board will have to figure out the priorities of what it's gonna spend those funds on and how it's gonna fund all the requests. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of update on that, and I think that's about it. Thank you all for, I know you've had a lot of fires this winter. I wasn't here in December, but I know that was a big month, and January as well, so thank you all for that.
Thank you. Jason?
I don't have anything else, Steve.
On to old business. Fire and EMS study. Chris or Randy?
Yeah, I just asked, basically Michael to put it on there. One, if you all have any questions, the basic update is they're now in the midst of doing all their work. They've gotten, lots and lots and lots of data, lots of information. They're using GIS and address locations and call data, call volumes, all that stuff. So they're in the middle of doing their work. And we're still looking at kind of late April, kind of early May results. And again, appreciate, a lot of the data was a heavy lift for everybody. And I know a lot of people spent lots of extra hours trying to figure it out. There's still a couple questions that Frank and his team are calling and working on. So, thanks for putting in those extra minutes and extra hours. But outside of that, if there's any questions, I'll see what I can do to answer them, but that's where we are.
Questions or comments from the group on that?
Thanks.
Thank you, Chris. Volunteer incentives and active membership status. Sure, Angie,
Let Michael talk about it. Bless you all.
So I emailed everyone a copy of this draft policy earlier this week to review, to get feedback on this evening. We tried to draft something that was some groundwork so that we could have a good discussion with the group tonight. Nothing that's on this paper is set in stone by any stretch. It's just a starting point for discussion. So if anyone has any feedback on the policy, things that they would like to see changed or added to, taken away. I know there are a few things that are highlighted throughout the policy that we'll need some guidance on from the group in order to set some of the standards for who would qualify for the incentive. One of the other pieces of feedback I got under the eligibility requirement of the policy, the on-duty piece, the on-call came into question a little bit with how that would work, since most people would be determined to be on call all the time. And how would a chief go back and determine exactly what hours that individual was on call? So I don't know if we just take that out of there or if we structure the on-call requirements to be a little bit more strict. But just some early thoughts, and let you all guide us moving forward.
Floor is open for discussion.
I think on that on-duty item, Mike, that you're talking about right there, I think number 2, if you're not at the station, how are you gonna track, how is the chief gonna track your time? Because, as a volunteer, I could say I'm on call 24 hours a day, even though I'm not at the station. And that's, I think everyone could do that, but I think that would supersede number 1. And I think it would be daggone difficult to track. And then, how would you track that? We're all, as volunteers, you're all on call all the time, but can you actually count hours that you say you're on call when you're not physically at the station? I'm certainly not opposed to it. I just don't know how you're going to track it. And then you can, whatever hour requirement we set under hours volunteered under Section A, whatever hours we set right there, if you count 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, then everyone's going to qualify regardless. And I don't think that's the intent of the incentive program. The other question I had on the second page under documentation responsibility, it shall be the responsibility of the fire chief or rescue chief or their designee to record hours volunteered. The manner in which hours are documented is at the discretion of the department and an individual responsible for the record keeping. It shall be the responsibility of the fire rescue chief to certify and submit a list of eligible hours. The list of eligible hours should be signed off by the fire and rescue chief. That, to me, that section right there really doesn't need to be in there if we go by the first 2 sections. If you understand what I'm saying. I mean, if it's a chief's responsibility to turn in the hours, we don't need this other paragraph to say how the chief is going to turn the hours in. But I'm open for whatever the group wants to do, but to me, that responsibility documentation paragraph needs to be tweaked a little bit, you know, to say that the chief is responsible for turning in the hours volunteered.
So would you want to remove section A and just leave section B?
I think section B probably, because you've set, in the first page, you've set the requirements, what's gonna be required to get it. And we have to come up with the amount of hours that we're gonna require for everyone to be eligible. And we set the criteria on the first page, and then everything under responsibility sort of overwrites the criteria that we set to get the thing, I think. I may be interpreting that wrong, but I've read it 5 or 6 times, and it just seems like that everything under documentation responsibility overwrites the criteria that we're trying to set to be eligible.
Could you combine them and just say maybe, like, take out A, like you mentioned, but maybe it needs to still say that there's a record of the number of hours, just so that that's maintained?
Yes.
So maybe it could say, it shall be the responsibility of the fire or rescue chief to maintain a record of hours volunteered and certify and submit the list.
I think that would eliminate some gray area maybe.
But I think part of the point was you don't really care what that format is, as far as the hours, just as long as somebody's got them.
As long as somebody has the hours, yeah.
Yeah, the only reason under section A we put the designee piece in is some of the feedback we've gotten is the chiefs don't want to have that responsibility just because of how much work it would be throughout the year to record all those hours. That's the reason it's in there, but
I think that whoever records the hours, it's gonna be a lot of work, but I think the chief has got to be the one that's gonna sign off and certify that those hours are true hours for what given the incentive for.
I think we're trying to be simple, easy about it, but if in theory, everybody's kind of doing their own record and one's got it written on a piece of paper, one's got it in Excel, and one's got a snazzy little records management system, it just I think it is gonna be a little harder.
Right.
Or if there's a way, like, can the county have or create something that's relatively so that way it's like consistent. And I don't know what that is, but just, I think we try to say, yeah, you know, we'll accept different things, but it makes it really hard if.
But we're not even saying that, I don't think it says we need to have a copy of their hours. We're just gonna get the chief to certify the list.
Certify the list of people that qualify.
So we don't care if they write it, I mean, probably not on a paper bag, but
Yeah, 'cause
in a notebook
Chief
or.
could send a copy of the roster in and say the members' names listed on this roster has met the hours required to receive the incentive. And if you guys want the hours listed, then we could list the hours. We have to be able to track those hours. But it's.
Yeah, you could just list the number of hours with the people's names.
Right.
Yeah, and then then we would have the record, and we could keep it, right?
Correct.
Our question is, if we're giving, supporting taxpayer money, is there's still some audit, like, tracking ability to say, yeah, we can write down everybody's name and they'll have the number, and she's gonna certify it.
But the department would have to keep a record. The
Somewhere
department would
there
have to
has
keep
be a record.
the true record of
Yeah.
what these hours were. But when we do the submittals to the county for the incentive, we could give the name and the total number of hours or whatever. But the department still is going to have to keep a record of those hours that we turn in case of an audit.
It should be
Sound good?
some auditable ability that's easy.
We can, I can produce whatever we need. I just everybody needs to do sort of the same thing though.
And this is going like away from what you said, Billy, about making it easier, but if we probably need to put in there how long you need to keep the records, you know, like for 3 or 5 years. But there's some rule, I don't know what the rule is, 3 or 5.
My department typically keeps records 7 years before we purge. And that keeps us in what I think is an auditable time.
Speaking from long shot perspective, I mean, our call volume is always pretty much dictated to, you know, we run all our calls from home. No, we don't have assigned teams that stay at the station, so that kind of doesn't fit the, you know, what you're talking about, the on-call hours, because, you know, you got somebody sitting at the station waiting on a call, they may sit for a week and not get anything. It just doesn't make sense for us to do that, so we have to do our own call hours at home, so that has to count for something.
Is there a county policy? I know our town policies, but is there a county policy that you could kind of steal from as far as like what a paid person would get for on-call? Like I know the towns is if you're on a overnight shift of 12 hours, you know, you get 2 hours for that. Is there any way you could take that and then kind of that way you've already probably done the work on it and then just say, instead of getting paid that monetary compensation, that's 2 hours onto the time?
It's 2 hours for every 8. You
Yeah.
get 2 hours.
I don't know what the county one
That
is, I'm just,
county
We
stuff.
can do that. But I still think the question is, I think like Billy's point, from my like outside, just looking in is, you're all on call, you know, you all have your pagers or your cell phones or however you do that, but you're not really available. So I don't know how, like, I don't know if you all say, hey, here's the calendar and you two are on call Monday, you two are on call Tuesday. Or is it purely,
I don't have enough to
there's
do
5
this.
people, right, and if you show up, you show up. If you don't show up, the call gets bounced to the next agency. And how do you, I mean, we can look into that a little further, try to help.
Yeah,
There's
like I
ways
said,
to-
one size doesn't exactly fit
Right.
all, so.
I've got a lot of people that are active, but they don't hang out at the station, and if we do it by hours, you know, they can run the call from home, cause they got stuff to do at home. But if we do it by hours, is that gonna cut them out? And then my actual active people's gonna say, you know what, if I ain't getting this incentive, why do I need to run all these calls? Stop what I'm doing, run these calls.
Part of the thought behind putting the 2 hours for each call that they run is, because the way that the law reads is somebody actively running calls, and for each agency that's different, just because the call volume's different everywhere, but we thought 2 hours per call, that in and of itself for folks that are actively running calls should get them a considerable amount of hours, depending on what we set the benchmark for the eligibility at. So I don't know if that helps at all, but that was kind of the thought behind it. Your call runners should accumulate hours very quickly. Maybe a little bit different for you, Keith, sorry.
I mean, I've got 38 active people on roll, but I don't have 38 people that are active.
But you know the ones that's gonna be there,
Correct.
just like I do.
Right.
And I know the ones I can depend on.
Right.
Not just cause they're there on the list, but it's just a handful, like you say, though.
Right.
Yeah, I think everybody knows who's gonna automatically qualify. It's the ones that's kinda sitting on the fence that we gotta figure out, so.
You might just get your feelings hurt. I mean, start showing up, run calls.
It is an incentive. You know, it's not,
Yeah, and it's a good incentive.
and that's kind of so you're trying to incentivize
People to respond.
people to respond, and if you don't, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just, you're just not gonna get to that level of tax abatement. And that's
So-
perfectly okay.
Do we know what the incentive is? Is it a?
We don't have a number, that'll be kind of worked through the budget process part, but I think what's been generally discussed is somewhere in that 500 to 750 range. Because what that equates to is anywhere from like a a $20,000 to $40,000 car. Yeah, and again, like we talked last time, if you have a $5,000 Honda Accord, you just,
Pay
we
nothing.
can't, we can't make something up. It's just, what do you have, and we can apply something to that. So for some, it definitely would be a little more. And again, though, we're $500, or it's not $10,000 or $5,000, some huge number that. But it's something. The other part of the list, and we had a lot of discussion last meeting about it, was all the things that are non-active, non-call running events. So your meetings, your trainings, your pub ed, your finance, your data processing, all. So we tried to capture a lot of that too. And I know some of you, coming to these kind of meetings, there's a lot of things that you guys spend time on that I think can count. And then it depends on, I know the number of 200 was mentioned, but that was just a discussion,
So if you give everyone 24, if you're saying everyone's on call for 24 hours a day, so you're looking at 730 hours a month is what everyone would be getting if they're on call 24 hours a day. If you count every month. If you do 24 hours a day times 365, it's 8,760 hours. Divide that by 12, it equates to 730 hours a month of being on call. But I think with everything we have right here under responding to calls, whether you have duty time or whether you don't have duty time, training, which anytime you drive to training, get to training, the hours it takes to drive to get to training, the hours of training you get, if you get a 6-hour class, an 8-hour class, an hour to drive home, all that time, the way we have this listed, is included. So time's gonna build up really quick, even gives the active, non-active people an opportunity to come to a business meeting. They're gonna get 2 hours for a business meeting automatically. So 2 hours in a business meeting, if you have 2 business meetings a month, that's 4 hours a month times 12, that's 48 hours just to attend your business meetings. Then you include all the other activities, whether you do fire prevention or you do CPR classes or whatever you do to offer services to the public above and beyond running calls. You get credit for that too, but you have to be able to track it. And that is burdensome. It's gonna be burdensome. Somebody's gonna have to track this stuff. Or you're gonna have to educate your members to say, when you go to class, when you come back from that class, I need to know how many hours you had in that class this weekend. If you were gone 2 days and you had 6 hours or 8 hours of classroom time for 2 days, 16 hours plus your travel time to and from, that is included right here. So your hours are gonna add up really quick. But then we have to set the hours. We have to know how many hours to do. But if you give everyone 24 hours of time to be on call for 24 hours a day, that's 760 hours a month.
Yeah, I don't think you could do it for hour, but like Josh was talking about, to get 2 hours pay for being on call for 8 hours if you don't get any.
Yeah, and we could set that kind of criteria, I think, if we wanted to, maybe.
One idea that popped in my head was, if you go with an on-call, and I haven't mapped it out, but if you go with some credit for on-call, can you just put a max? Say, hey,
Oh, that's a good idea.
if you operate in this, setting, you're on call, but you could only use 100 hours, at the most. But that means you gotta come up with 100 more somewhere else, which I was just doing quick. If you did 200 hours, it's 16 hours a month. So there's half of it's just being on call, so you're at least, now you're down to 8 hours. And that's just an example, like not saying that's the number, but do you spend 8 hours a month doing something else? Probably. And part of me says, and if not, in my mind, that's okay. You just don't get the extra benefit, that's all. And there's still other incentives that you can achieve.
Keith's right there. Some people are gonna get their feelings hurt. I mean, that's a tough decision that you guys have gotta make. It's you on the ground. It's you the ones that's gonna have to sit here and write it up. You're gonna have people come and go, hey man, help me out. We've known each other for this and this and this. Can you help me out? You're gonna have to make tough decisions. You're gonna have to look them in the eye and go, all right, this didn't happen. Because at the end of the day, you're the one that's gonna sign the thing that says it comes in and goes, this is what these people did. And that's accountable, that's audible, and that's on you. And that's the tough thing about leadership on the ground is you're gonna have to look them in the eyes and go, hey guys, you didn't meet the criteria. It's not an easy call. That's why we just wanna make sure we can help facilitate this, but at the end of the day, we can only do what you tell us you need to get done, and that's where we're at.
Yeah,
So, tough
because the board
decisions.
the board of supervisors wants this group to determine the criteria, right?
I know everybody would love us to be the bad guys in this one and make it easy, but that's not gonna happen. And it's joys of leadership. But we wanna be able to support you in the decisions that you make. We're not trying to make it harder, we're just trying to make sure that there's accountability attached to it. And we're here to support you. I think y'all realize that we're here to support you guys and make sure that you can be successful. So this is another tool in your bag for recruitment, for getting people moving on calls, and this is where we're at.
And the way I explained it to my membership is this is a new program and this is a new program moving forward. It's not what we've done in the past. This is a new program that starts the day we started moving forward. We can't go back and make up for everything we've done in the past. And that makes it tough, because you've got senior members that have served a lot of time to be able to do this. But this is a new program and this starts tomorrow, starts next week. And from that day forward, that's where we're going with the program. It's not what we've all done in the past. It's a new program. And just like Supervisor Kidd said, this is a recruiting tool. This is a recruiting tool to get people to come and volunteer for us. And they're gonna get something out of volunteering for us besides serving the public. When I joined the fire department as a volunteer, it was to serve the community and serve the public and to do my part to be part of the community. And then I still carry that thought process today, even though I'm a career person. But it's gotta be, as the chief, I'm not gonna get the incentive, okay? I'm a paid employee of the town. I'm not eligible for this incentive. I'm not gonna receive it. So it's not gonna affect me, but I want it to be fair to everyone across the board, and how we put this together is how it will live, in the document. And it just needs to be fair, in my opinion.
And we can't start it, we can't initiate it, we can't vote on it until you guys come back to us with what your criteria are. So the more we kick this down the road, the more we keep having to push this off to the additional tax year. We wanna try to get this in sooner rather than later,
In this budget year,
yeah,
if we can make it happen.
if possible, yes.
Mikey, you mentioned, not making it like to hurt the morale of your existing people that are good, right?
But I think we do, kinda like you was talking about a minute ago, maybe put a cap on the on-call hours that you're not actually at the station. That would help us out a lot.
It would.
And it would also help out our senior members that are gonna be there. If we need something, we can call them, they're right there. At the same time, one that's been on there for 40 years, probably not gonna get out at 2 o'clock in the morning to run a, vehicle in a ditch or something. So we still wanna, and I understand we can't focus on them, but we still wanna kinda make it a little bit easier for them to say, we know you put in this time, and we appreciate it. We wanna give you a chance where you're not, maybe not running every call, but
But for some of their on-call,
Yeah, but Mike, I agree with you totally. Your business meetings, those hours count. If you're there, if they come an hour before the meeting, to look at trucks or help clean up the station, carry out trash, whatever, and you have a 3-hour business meeting, and then they hang out for an hour after that's 5 hours. They can get just for coming to the business meetings, the senior people that don't actively run calls.
right. But if we put a cap on it, like this is saying, says, where'd it go? In the, under eligibility, the IV down there, it's got all the stuff listed out. And then it's got a blank right there. Can we do away with that blank and just whatever it is what it is? On the back page, cause it says we're gonna list the amount of hours we can put down for that, right? Or did I read that incorrectly?
I think you're talking about the blank on the top of the second page.
Yes,
Mike.
sir.
Yeah, I don't know what that's for right there.
Maybe
I'm just
for it,
looking
but-
at the actual task right there, and I think that you can take all of those tasks and however much time they spend doing that stuff,
Okay, all right.
and you just document that hour. If they come in like on a Saturday and they do vehicle maintenance for an hour, or they come in and wash a fire truck, they're there for an hour. They get credit for an hour for that day. If they come in and mop all the bay floors down, it takes them 5 hours, then they get 5 hours for that day.
I'm good with that, yeah.
I think that blank, Mike, and you help me with that, that blank's just there for something else we might wanna add into that
Yeah,
list.
so is that the top of the last page?
Yeah.
Yep, so the reason that's blank is just if you all had any more ideas of administrative
Oh, okay,
text.
I thought we was gonna put a cap on all that, where,
Nah.
Yep, everything that
That's
has a
just
blank.
something else that you might be doing that's not in that list.
Okay.
We can add to that list, like I think what would be good for us to do, maybe, to speed things up a little bit, everyone needs to take this list back home with them again this week. Look over, and if there's something in this list that your department's doing that's not listed here, add it back into that list and bring it back to the group, or send it back to Mike and let him add it into the list. There's a couple of things on here that we do that's not here. So, I'm gonna add those back in, but I think if we take the list and we look at it, we need to think about how many hours we're gonna require to get this incentive, and we need to bring those hours back. Last meeting, we talked about percentages and stuff, and that doesn't work because, Long Shop doesn't run as many calls as we do. And you run more calls than Long Shop runs, so we can't really set a percentage, it just needs to be in hours. Come up with some kind of hours, But, I think
you
if
guys
we,
could vote on that maybe at the next meeting.
Yeah.
We could definitely get that in the budget cycle.
I think we just need to determine how many hours that we would like to be required, come to consensus between us all, and I could do that in a group email maybe. If you've got an hour, if you sit down and figure out, I think it's gonna be easy for my guys to get this X number of hours, or this is a fair number of hours for us to work off of. I've got a figure in my head what I think it should be for Christiansburg, because of them, for the amount of calls we run. But I think the number I have in my head would probably work for every department, I believe. I need to go back and look at the year-end report to see everybody's call totals, to see where that's at. But I think if by the next meeting, if we could come back and we could all agree on a number of hours to be able to be eligible for this incentive. And then if there's any other functions that we do, whether it's responding to calls, any type of training, or any other tasks that our members do during the week or during the weekends or whatever that may not be listed on here, add those back in there, and that's all part of our criteria. And the chief's responsible for collecting the total hours of that and keeping a record.
I may be wrong, February is when we want to vote on the policy for budget purposes.
It would be good if you could.
So would it be possible to try and fill in some of these blanks tonight? And like the one on the top of the third page, like I could fill that in as we go, but I think it'd be really helpful to, as a group here tonight, try and hash the hours out and some of the miscellaneous items about who they're submitted to when they're due by.
Can we do like the submitted date, just like we do have to do our rosters for the clerk at the beginning of the year? Or, well,
There's a date in the state code that we've already passed, but it gives you some provisions. I'll double check.
January 31st is what they
Yeah,
said.
there it is. You have to have this submitted by January 31st. Not this year, but on your normal.
Next year.
In the Commissioner of Revenue's office, we've already talked of, you know, there's extenuating circumstances, we're good, we'll implement it this spring, but on a normal annual basis, January 31st, this has to be all submitted. And then there's also another piece to all this that the Commissioner's office, we have to kind of work through. So you all submit it, and you certify it, but in the Commissioner's office, there'll actually be another form that every individual person, so like if you're a disabled veteran, there's a form, you have to fill it out. Now, you don't have to do it every year, but in our mind, like, unless something changes, but you fill it out, because they have to really know exactly the name, you know,
The vehicle.
the VIN number on the vehicle, which vehicle it is. So there's, you know, this is really more the policy, and then there's still a couple implementing things that we'll be able to get into. My only other observation, and this is just, I try to poke holes in things of thinking about is if you go with some kind of on-call hour credit, and then you have a max, and you kind of all assume we're all on call, then I think you just wiped off 100 hours. Like, if everybody says we're all on call, that doesn't do anything, you know? Like, if your number's 200, but you're gonna go down the list and say everybody's on call and they get 100 hours, there's no credit. Like, you just wiped out 100 hours for everybody. So like, part of me just thinks like there's still a reality to who really is on call that actually responds. And I don't know how exactly to say that, but part of you guys, like, you guys know who's on call and who's coming and who's not, and then there's probably some in the middle, but like to poke holes in that, I could say everybody's on call and I just gave everybody 100 hours. And I might feel good about that, you know, that's okay, but I think the downside to that is you all just gave everybody 100 hours and they aren't responding. Which I always say, like, it's not fair to the high, like at work, it's not fair to the high performers that the low performers also get, you know, extra benefits. So how do you separate your better, higher performers from your?
You have to be honest.
And that's I always say, and that's
To be
fine.
honest, if people really are on call,
Yeah,
right?
I mean, everybody sitting here knows who runs calls. You know, who's running the calls, who's doing stuff at the station. Everybody sitting here knows who does that.
Because if people say they're on call and they never go to a call, then they're not, right?
I don't know if this would make it easier, but it's just something to throw out there. You know, we keep talking about a total number of hours, but you could almost have a weighted bucket. I like the bucket idea, and you say like you could meet it by, I'm just throwing out a random number, 300 of, you know, actually fighting fire. Like I feel like, you know, but you know, maybe if you're just getting your hours from training, you can fill that bucket up, but you need to do some from another bucket. That might incentivize people to be more well-rounded within the department also.
There's some other options, like, if you wanna do this, like, Billy said, it'd be a little burdensome, and it will, but there are apps that are made now and I was just looking them up real quick, just running it through. There's 4 or 5 different apps that are possibilities that will track, log, do mileage, and things like that. That will give you and I don't know the whole who choosing what for on whether it is, but it should give you a central database. Take a little bit off of you for accountability purposes and put it into their hands. It's their responsibility at the end of the day to be able to log and track that. And I think that's some options. I was just talking to Chris about it. It's just something we can look into if that's something that y'all want to look at. But I think it would help a little bit to centralize it, keep it, and simplify it. If they could just do it, hey, I'm on call. Hey, I'm on a duty log. This is where I'm tasked. This is where I'm on. Because I know the active side that they're going to do duty logs. This is when you work. This is your shifts. These are what you're going to do. Blah blah blah. It's the same thing for a lot of you because again, you guys know who's running calls. You know, and you know who's more or less on a duty roster because you know they're going to be there 95% of the time. So if we could do that, they're going to hit their phone. They know they're going to get the call. They're going to hit the radio. They're going to get on the road, hit that button, and hopefully it helps simplify it a little bit. We need to take advantage of the technology and the tools that we have to try to ease as much pressure off of you guys as possible, but still have that high level of accountability. So then it's on the individual, more or less. There's 5 or 6 different options, and I'll hit him up and just we'll see if they're feasible. Just because they're possible doesn't mean they're feasible, but hopefully that helps a little bit.
Yeah, I still got some that's got flip phones.
Yeah, I can see the app working, but I mean, like, if you're running a call, you don't want somebody to be on their phone.
Yeah.
Get the station.
I'm just saying, I'm just trying to think of accountability. I'm just trying to throw options out there, trying to ease up a little bit of pressure. But yeah, I 100% agree. Always be safe. So, but yeah, something like along those lines, just to try to ease it up on you guys. And I don't even know if it's possible. You know, I mean, but there's a few things I saw that are out there, but we can look into it, just try to make sure, because once you get this nailed down, we can find the infrastructure to be able to work with it. Once the numbers are nailed and we can get it passed, makes it a lot easier for us to look at other things to be able to help.
Yeah, I see they got you in the max number of hours. You're automatically curving the grade there.
Yeah.
So, but you know, I think everybody uses active 911. And, you know, I've got a few people I poke fun at saying calling them Mr. Unavailable because the first thing he'll do is hit unavailable on that. So that ought to be a deduction on the hours when they hit that. So.
And it may be, I mean, there may be some logical ways, like you're saying too, is like, you know, if the priority is running calls, maybe there is a little more weight on that. But you can still get your hours, you know, these other ways. Training's certainly important. So is cleaning the station, showing up for meetings. So as I say, there's all kinds of ways, you know, to do it. It's really up to you. It's just, how do you do it in a fair, consistent way?
From Longshot's point of view, without a base number of on-call hours, 200 hours is too much for us. You know, I've always felt like if I could get 8 hours a month out of a volunteer, I've got an active member. That's counting actually at the station, training or running calls. That's not on-call.
Do you guys know, or can you figure out, like, if people came to the meetings, the number of meetings you think they should come to, and kind of like estimate how many hours that is, and meetings, trainings, things like that, and figure out, like, people should be able to do that. If they're committed to it, they should be able to do that to get like a starting point. And then I don't know if y'all talked about this last month or not, but everybody knows that you have fewer calls. You know, it's just the nature of where you live and where your station is. So is there some way to make an adjustment for that and have different hours for different places, or is that too complicated?
Percentage of calls.
Yeah. percentage of calls or something, I don't know.
Yeah, I
Well,
mean,
We
percentage of
talked, we talked about percentages, you know, but if we say like we said, we'll set,
And some of you have a whole lot of calls and it's
yeah,
gonna be
if you're gonna
hard.
set a percentage amount of calls for everyone to respond to, if we set 20% and we're running 1,500 calls a year, that's 300 calls a year that my guys have gotta run to be eligible. If you set 20% for what Long Shop runs, that's how many, Steve?
You do, or though, like, if you run
Could do a
30%
minimum
or
number of hours
200.
or a certain percentage of
Two
calls.
hours.
I don't mean to take us backwards if I do just go say no.
Yeah, I mean, the high volume agencies percentage doesn't work. For us, it does.
Maybe it
would.
could be.
So, do you have a different standard? Do you define high volume stations and low volume stations? And if you're a low volume station, your threshold's this, and your high volume is this, but then I go,
That's,
they
that's
also,
just,
yeah, you may have 10 members, they got 100. They gotta divide all that up. Like, that starts to break down again too. Like, I don't know if that really helps. Right.
I know we're struggling to try to make it standard, but it's kind of hard to.
The burdens of leadership. You gotta make those tough decisions.
That's why they pay us big
That's why you get the big bucks.
Well, I know last meeting, Billy went through thinking out loud and just walking through it. Like, if you went through each month of it, what's a normal month expectation of meetings, training, all the things that you have to do? And you kind of set what you think the minimum is. What's that number? And let that drive it. You know, I think we picked 200 just as a discussion point, so there's no magic to that number. It was just kind of what we penciled out, you know, at a meeting. But if you really just sat down and thought, okay, where do I think it's fair and consistent to offer this incentive to the membership? What do you expect? What's the number of hours that you would expect? What that is?
Just curious, do you know what the, on average, single person's personal property tax is for Montgomery County? Like, how much is this gonna,
It depends on the
I
venue.
know it can, you're talking about a
So,
huge
like,
spread,
if
but.
you're, hold on just one second.
Drop junk.
That's right.
But like to your point, what's the average personal property tax bill for a vehicle? I don't know. I mean, we could figure
If you
that
have
out. easily.
if you have a $30,000 vehicle, it's like about $500. I think that's why we said that,
That it is.
Appreciate it a little more.
but I don't know what the average vehicle value is for, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and where I'm coming from with that is if, I mean, you divide that by minimum wage, you get 33 hours. You know, I mean, that's,
Oh,
I mean, it's, again, I know that's a huge spread, but at least, I don't know if, at least that kind of has,
Not a
add some
very active
numbers to it, but,
volunteer, is it?
right. But that's still what they're saving, I don't know. This one, that's a different perspective, but I don't know.
Part of that perspective is it's not a lot of money. Right. And I know somebody can say $500 is a lot of money, and I get that, but it's not a lot of money. So
For what you're doing.
for what you're doing, yeah, you know, it's like, so a lot of it is in the purpose and the meaning behind it, not the cash value. So
What is important for the county, it's the first tool we've had in our bag that the county's able to do across the board. Because up until that point, we were kind of tied because everybody had their own set of rules, everybody had their own for the towns. And this is the first time the counties had the ability to do it and to do something that we thought was at least meaningful other than thank you. You know, so we can beat this dead horse up and down, but numbers gotta come out, gotta figure whether it's weighted, whether it's a percentage, whether it's a weighted percentage. But gonna be some, some time spent trying to figure that out so we can get this nailed down, so we can get the guys taken care of and girls. So,
I have one other question on, not specifically the hours, but if you have two members in the household that are volunteers, is that gonna?
They would each get one if they each met.
you only get a half a day, that's it.
You get 2 cars.
Or your wife gets
And-
3/4
and
and you get 1/4.
actually-
She get both of them.
Yeah, and actually, there is a little bit of language in the code that kind of touches on that to acknowledge like, yeah, what if 2 people in the same household, which means they have 2 vehicles, you get two benefits. At least that would, I think, be we're allowed to do that, and that would be our position, at least, I think.
Would an RV count for that? Cause I don't have a car worth anything.
No, it has to be a vehicle.
Has to be a vehicle. Okay.
That's
But
right.
it-
You're only gonna get
RVs
$750.
pay personal property tax on
That's
that.
the cap, is $750.
Has to be a vehicle
It's
for
in
respond
spot.
calls.
It has to be a
Personal property.
It has to be a
Vehicle responsibility.
If you drive your RV, if it's a drivable RV,
You respond to calls in your RV.
yeah, it says,
Make it
it
happen.
says it has to be a motor vehicle.
Anything's drivable if you're brave.
No, I don't wanna see an RV running down the road now. Going
Who's
across.
Jason?
With
We'll
lights.
know if you.
Exactly who it is. They go with the lights.
The command center's a big RV.
Yeah.
What's the goal of it? What's the goal of the incentive?
Get people to respond.
It should be a recruitment tool and a
Recruitment tool.
retention tool.
I guess the important wording in that, it's not a, and again, it's a tough thing, don't wanna say thank you for all that you've done, but it's a recruiting and retention tool. It's an incentive to keep them going and keep them running calls and to keep going out, so.
No discussion. I know we're kinda getting farther away from the hours here, but think we got any suggestions?
You guys tell us what you want in the policy.
I mean, could each department set their hours and go off of that, make this easier?
I think the only issue.
I think last year, Blacksburg run 1,617 calls, Christiansburg was 1,430 on fire. And Elliston was 358, Ryder was 211, and we were 110. So I mean, there's really no way to set a certain hour as a whole to get everybody to work together.
If you do it that way and take like the lowest number, it doesn't hurt anybody.
Only adds more people. So I mean, I get back to, Keith, how many hours do you spend a year? And pencil that out.
But then you still want them
What
to
is
run
that?
calls, you know what I
Oh,
mean?
right.
Like,
Yeah. But like, what is that for the lowest volume station? Let's see, what is that number? Is it 100 hours or is it 50 hours?
I think it was like 300 hours. Set sign and go with it.
Hey, that's better than what I had, Steve.
I'm between 200 and 250.
You're what?
I'm between 200 and 250. That's my,
Did you count in your football standbys and all that stuff too?
no, I did not count those.
You
What
didn't?
I'm counting in right now, and I'm trying to take Steve and the rest of these guys into consideration. So just like for us, I count each, cause we're scheduled 6 hours each night. So each person will get 6 hours each week, 4 hours. My total hours are 336. But I'm also trying to take Steve into consideration because he's not gonna have, he doesn't have a duty night like the rest of us do. Or I do, or, so it makes it different for him, so I could do 36 hours and be good, but it doesn't benefit him.
Did you include in your training hours and your
Yeah, so that 336 hours is just on-call hours and meeting and training hours.
meeting training hours?
That doesn't include anything, football standbys, any other thing, that's just strictly on-call hours.
I know we come up with, the department come up with 100 hours, and that's based on the meetings and trainings, because we really don't have a lot of vehicle maintenance or station maintenance anymore with the paid guys coming in. And so it's basically just meetings, trainings, phone calls, and maybe a PR event here and there. That's where we're at.
Could there be some kind of hybrid where you have a percentage and or the hours, so where the stations with the higher volume will have no issue? You know, you get your hours in, your guys don't have to run 300 calls or whatever to count, so you'll meet the threshold of the 250 or whatever hours y'all settle on, and the smaller agencies that don't run as many calls could figure out a percentage or some kind of combination.
I was thinking about something like that, not quite, I didn't get that far in my brain, but yes.
The percentage approach helps the really small departments and not the big departments. So you know, a lot of things like it's, you have this much or this much.
The smaller of
whichever,
these two
whichever
things.
is smaller. And I don't think that's it's rational. All we're trying to find is something that's fair, consistent, and rational. And if that makes sense, then what is that? It's just, and it may make something like,
And as far as like percentages go from other localities that I've been in, they've also counted like all of the events towards the percentage too. You would have to keep track of the events to gain that percentage, but it isn't just based off of calls. It's also for the older members and for the members that do the administrative duties and don't go on calls as much. Those events still account for their percentage. And I know that that's helped the departments in other localities that I've been a part of. So that's something else that maybe you can consider with this. If we decide to go down that route. I don't know if that's too much work.
Us personally, what we do is you have to run 20% of the calls and 40% of the meetings. It's pretty fair. I mean, we can break it down into hours, but if we break them hours down, it's gonna be not gonna be near the hours of some of these other departments. And I mean, that's just our in-house thing, and
so what is the,
if a member isn't, if he doesn't qualify for that, he gets pulled in, you know, what's going on?
so it's gonna ask is like, if that's your measurement internally, what is that measurement of? Your definition of active?
If you don't qualify, if you don't run 20% of calls and 40% of the meetings, then you're not active,
Drop
you're not
below that
eligible for
status.
certain things.
You're still a member, but you don't qualify for something.
Again, everybody in here knows who runs calls and who's an active member. Not just because they're on this list, they're not an
Right.
active member.
Currently, if you're active, you get your license fee waived. I don't know exactly how the Christmas card gets distributed between the agencies. Just on the surface, if currently, if you submit the list that says you're active, then you're $32.50. So it's like, that threshold's gonna be above that, cause you're already getting that $32. So what's, in my mind, like, what's the incentive to have a higher expectation?
And your members that aren't currently running calls, they're still receiving incentives. They're still on life insurance. They're still getting
Yeah,
the
there's all-
decal fee. They're still getting $100 a year. Like, they're still receiving incentives. This is just above for the truly active people that are making a difference in your departments.
What's 20% of Christiansburg's cost?
What's the percentage?
20, how many calls do y'all have?
We're gonna run, we will run 1,500. What'd you say we run last year, Keith? 1468, something like that.
So it would be 300 calls if it was 20%. It's a lot.
Christiansburg Rescue, they were 4,609. Blacksburg's right behind them at 3,695.
How what would you do about that, Mikey? Like, have different people have different percentages or what? You know what I mean?
Well, that's just what we do. I'm throwing it out there. I mean, we can break it down into hours, I guess.
I like that idea of the percentages too, but I just think that thinking that somebody's gonna respond to 300 calls a year is a lot, right?
So do you want
Where the or comes in?
so here's a question for you. Are you, the incentives is for your high flyers, right? You want to incentivize people to be much more active. So, and I'm with you, Mike, it's probably about 25% if we're trying to play with that, 20-25, somewhere in there. But you're trying to incentivize which group? The lowest common denominator, or you want to push people to be better? And I don't know if that's, I don't know. That's why I'm asking. It's not a statement, it's more of a question. But what are you trying to incentivize? The minimal standard or another one? Do you want to push or do you want to accept? So that's a question for you guys again. And we're just wondering, and again, we'll support you. But where's y'all's heads at on where you want to push?
I just don't wanna set it too high.
Yeah.
Where people is doing what they can do. And, you know, we've got some people that's got 4 and 5 kids. They run everything they can, but, you know, if their wife's working that night, they can't run calls. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We don't wanna alienate people where it's, you know, they done set it this high, we ain't gonna be able to make it either, so.
Yeah.
I even try, you know what I mean?
We're not saying what it is, we're just,
I'm just saying.
We gotta think about the administrative tasks too. I mean, if you got somebody that's just solely administrative part, put a percentage of calls in there, then you're kind of eliminating them.
It's like us, cause we don't technically respond. People don't respond to the station to answer calls, cause we have set nights. So a percentage of calls would knock a lot of people out, because they may go a month, 2 months, just because of the way their call night falls, and they don't have a call. They're not, you know, not that they weren't there and they weren't doing their thing, but, you know, we didn't have a call. Bradley can tell you, I mean, you can go a week in Reiner without having a call at all. And then sometimes it's 4 and 5, you know, at one time. Hours works better for us.
I think it needs to be both and like or, because again, I think the percentages helps the smaller departments, but I mean, you know, the departments that have even call distribution across the day, all year long, 20% is literally 20% of the year. So that's where, but it's easier for those departments to get the hours because of the call volume, so.
So you say the criteria would be, it's this number of hours or this percentage, whichever is less.
Or whichever one you hit first.
Yeah, guys, we're not putting any criteria on you. We can't do anything until y'all figure, we're just here to support.
Another suggestion to think about is if you guys are looking to have more folks running active calls, put a multiplier on your active calls. If you are requiring 100 hours, maybe that's 100 hours of administrative time, or maybe that's 50 hours of active call time times 2. So every 1 hour they are an active call, it counts as 2 towards that requirement. If you're trying to look at different ways to incentivize that.
Yeah, that's why you get mad at your math teachers now when they said you're gonna have to use these things. Now we're talking letters and we're putting things in math.
We're doing algebra
We're doing
now.
algebra now, and what if this, and
That's right.
And we don't need an answer tonight.
right.
So I think
We don't need an answer tonight, but if we're, like, I think that it's so far apart right now that there's not gonna be an answer next month either.
I think we need to pick a starting point, and then people can take it home and be like, okay, like if I'm just gonna throw out 200 hours and 20%, or, and if people take something on those lines back and think about over the next month, how many members would get that?
my challenge to 20% is
If you did 20,
you
Billy,
do
how
so
many
much,
of your
you
people
do so many other
But
things.
none of them, but 200 hours,
Just
everybody.
run a call.
Yeah.
So.
What'd you say, Jason?
I just asked Billy because I was trying to figure if you did like 20% for him, how many of these people are gonna make that 20% of their total call? I mean, that's a lot of calls.
You'd beat the hours probably,
Yeah.
you know.
I'm leaning toward hours. And I
Is
think
that-
the number that I have come up with for hours for my department is very doable for my department, but it's a whole lot higher than what it may be for Steve's department. And I based mine off of meeting hours and training hours alone, and then 36 hours of duty call a month. Is what I base mine on, and we're negotiating duty hours now with our volunteers, trying to come up with a consensus of what we can do. But my number's a whole lot higher than
What's your number?
80,
Just a wee bit.
and that's,
But like, you know that would be active for you. Like
that
you
would be,
keep saying, you know who
that
they
would be
are.
doable, that would be doable for my
All
department.
Showed up to meetings and helping clean the building.
One thing to throw out there to Chief Williams' point, and it may make this easier, more complicated, like you said, every chief in here knows who runs calls. By the letter of the law, the chief certifies if they're actively running calls. So do we need to look at those people, or are we just looking at the people that need to do the administrative task to make ends meet? Like, I'd say on duty would be the same thing. They're at the station, they may not get a call in a month, but they're there actively trying to run calls. In my mind, that's fair across all the departments. And it wouldn't, at least for the active members, the hours for them is taken out of it. And now we're just talking about the folks that aren't running calls.
I just took our meetings, our training, our proposed duty hours, and then our special events that we do, you know, with Wilderness Trail Days downtown, Touch a Truck, Fall Festival at the mall, National Night Out that we do with the police departments at the Montgomery Park, things like that. All the hours that we put into those special events add up really, really quick. And it gives the people that are not active an opportunity to get these hours doing special event stuff. And it's stuff that they can handle. They don't have to be actively on a fire truck. It's other things that they can do that they can actively handle, but right now I'm around 480, but I'm good with whatever someone decides. 200 is really easy for us, just because of our call volume, which our call volume is much greater than what Steve's would be, or Reiner's, or Elliston's, or Long Shop Fire. If you sit down and really look at everything you do, your department does, the hours could add up very rapidly. Probably just not seeing it all, like,
Well, so we have a schedule and we plug in who's gonna be on which night. I can actually go into that thing and see everybody's hours. I'm scheduled for 144 hours on duty this month,
this month.
just this month.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm, and I've got other people that are scheduled for 72 hours.
I have my 12.
Yeah, But if that part makes it easy on us, cause then I don't have to, I can just go through each month and see who's got what.
We're still not zeroed in on it. I mean, 40 hours a month is too much for us. That comes out to you 480 in a year. So that's too much for us. I mean,
We might just have to go with a certain number and then we adjust our time percentage wise to get where we need to be.
and I get back to where I started on this, is, we don't do duty groups, but, we may have to come up with a way of, it's an app or whatever it is, of plugging in that you're available midnight to 8 every night or whatever. To be able to.
Again, we all know who doesn't and who don't. That's the problem.
We gotta be able to justify it.
Yeah.
Is 20 hours reasonable for you? Month? Cause if you did 20 hours, that would give you 250.
As long as I can plug in the, an on-call time, then that's fine, but,
So I'm gonna ask this. So each one of you had to look down the line. You said you know who's doing it. You had to see who you think would qualify. How many people do you think per station would actually qualify for this? Even at the bare minimum of 100 or 200 or 300, whatever we're saying, whatever number you put in your head, how many people do you believe would qualify at what we're doing now? Because I know for Steve, it's a smaller department. It's only gonna be a couple of people, a few people. Same with Keith, could be 10, 15 maybe, something like that. Mikey's gonna be a little bit more, probably about 20, 25, 30, somewhere in there.
20, 25.
Okay, so, I know more about the small departments than the other departments. I haven't been to y'all's, but I know about these guys. So this is what you're talking about. You're talking about this percentage of people that do what they need to do, and that's your person you're basing it on, is the people that are coming, correct? So the numbers you're talking about are about a couple of people, 10, 15, 20. So those numbers or percentages or however y'all want to play ball with it, is gonna be based on that core group. And you already know how many hours they do and the calls that they go on. And you could I could ask each one of you, and you could average it in your head sitting here right now. Because you know your people. That's where we're at. You make the call on what you think is the core group of your people that you feel that can qualify for this, and how many hours they do on the low end average, and we'll go from there, whether it's a percentage, whether it's hours. And it's gonna be based by station. We can make it close, but it's there's such a variation between, you know, you do 100 and he's doing 1,600. And there's too far of a variation. So what you're talking about right now could be significant to somebody's life, but we're talking about max 100, 150 people total. Best guess, Billy and Blacksburg and them doing the most. But you're talking maybe 150 people. So where are we at? And that's the percentage we're looking at. Trying to add clarity to this. Okay. Push this in. I know it's mad.
So you're saying each agency set their own hours, is that?
We're about where I'm just throwing it out there because it's gonna be a percentage, it's gonna be hours. You look like you just bit a lemon. So, but I'm just trying to think about this. It's y'all can however you want to play it, but it's got to be fair and it's got to be kind of equitable across the board. And if it's a weighted percentage for calls, then so be it. Again, we're not dictating, guys. It's on y'all. This is your decision. Whatever you say, we're gonna look at you and go, okay, we can support that. But if you don't nail it down, you can't do anything. We're just throwing stuff at the wall right now, guys. We're just trying to suggest, hey, what about this? Hey, what about this? Hey, what about this? I see a lot of north and south. I don't see a lot of east and west. So
See people doing math.
that's why I see a lot of headaches. I see a lot of temple rubbing. But choices gotta go, guys.
Devil's advocate. How does everybody feel for 200 hours? I mean, obviously, it's not gonna, I mean, us Christiansburg Rescue, Blacksburg Rescue, we can make that feasible, but just try to help you guys out that don't have that call volume. But if we set it for 200, how do you guys feel for 200?
16 hours a month. That's on average.
I mean, I think it's a little high for us personally, but maybe 150, 125 would be better for us, or, you know, be closer to what we can do.
So what are you thinking for a percentage then?
That's hard to do because, depending on where people live and where the call is, depends on if they run it with the paid staff. You know, they ain't gonna drive all the way to the firehouse to sit because they don't need a truck there on the interstate. So that's kind of really tough for us as far as percentage wise. I'm good with 200.
What'd you say?
I'm good with 200.
If y'all had 200 in Christiansburg, how many people do you think would get it?
200 hours in Christiansburg, 38.
That's your 30 regulars.
So that's,
Everyone on the roster, active roster, could get 200.
is that fair to y'all? Or
Yeah,
An
more,
hour is an hour.
yeah, more than fair. I mean,
that's what I mean,
we
is
can
it
we
two?
can do 200 off of meetings and training and special events alone.
So is it gonna help you with the goal of what you want? Do you know what I mean by that? Like
Yeah,
you're
I know what you want.
Okay.
I know what you're saying.
All right.
Trying to get more people to come.
Yeah,
I mean, you want to set it at the as we were saying, talking about, at the end of the day, Billy, you said it.
right.
If that's
So
what
if
you
we-
want, if you want 300 for your station,
If we set a minimum, a countywide minimum,
Right.
and then
and
the
if
chief's discretion.
the other department wanted to crank the hours up, that would be on us to do that. But I think whatever we decide for the county needs to be across the board for everyone. I don't think we need to say that this station has less hours than this station does. This is the minimum to be able to be eligible for the incentive. And that is fair across the board for everyone. And then if the department, if I wanna make my hours higher, I can make my hours higher.
Can we include that language so it says that the chief can require a higher requirement?
That was a
Yeah.
good point. Is I think if this group approve the policy versus if you as the chief want to set it higher, that's what you would like to do, and you bring it to the group and the group says, yes,
Yeah.
we'll approve that policy. That's great. Cause what we don't want is one chief, you know, you having it here because it's not your tax to give, it's the county's tax.
Correct.
So,
And then the people that are between that, like if you decide it's 400, then the people between 2 and 4 kind of come to the board maybe and say, it's not fair.
I'm gonna go volunteer in Elliston. Cause my number's smaller.
Yeah. Let's try it. We need, I personally, I think we need to have a baseline across the board that the whole, every department goes by. And it's,
And I
for
think
the
you have to
larger departments who
recognize-
want to make that number higher, we have the option to do that. But my option would be to make that number a little higher to create more participation, more activity, to be able to get that
Based
number.
on the needs and expectations of what is considered an active person in the station. Pressure points.
Because we got the
So it's like-
minimum hours, we can move forward. We can, the
Yeah.
board can move
Yeah.
forward with a minimum, and then you guys, like, Mikey, Jason, you're talking maybe 200, right? That's what you're thinking. Jason's not north and south.
Yeah.
I'm just
Yeah,
letting
I'm
you know.
good,
But I'm just saying,
Josh is
that's on
saying
you
a
to
little less.
incentivize your people to be able to do what they need to do. But the board can move forward with the policy where the minimum's at. And that allows us to get this in motion. That's my worry. I don't wanna kick this can down the road because we're sitting there beating each other up for hours, because Long Shot doesn't do as much as Christiansburg. And and the people that it would benefit lose out on that because we're not able to solidify anything else. You know your stations, you know your people.
So with the 200 hours a year, you don't have to get 16 a month, right? Just cumulative
yes.
200 in a
I'm just-
year.
It's just perspective, like,
Right. So some months might be super active, like we have a natural disaster or something, and people might meet their the criteria
Yeah.
in 1 year. So a 16-hour a month average, one business meeting and maybe 4 calls, like minimum calls, that would get you to the 16 hours, 1 call a week and 1 business meeting. That seems like a pretty low threshold that would probably be doable for, most of the volunteers. And they may run 4 calls in 1 week, if they have them, plus all the other
Training.
activities and duties will add up as well. I don't think it's gonna be as hard to get to that 16 hours as people might think.
Agreed.
My theory is if they want that incentive, they'll work towards it.
they don't, that's okay.
I mean, it's an individual benefit. So,
So I think then with the policy, make sure, don't wait till next month, but email like Michael, make sure the tasks that are realistic, real things that you do are included. If you'll feel like general consensus is 200 hours, we'll craft it a little more.
Maybe if that's the point we're at right now, Michael could send something out to the group with the revision and then we could figure out even if there needed to be another meeting,
Before the February meeting.
For the February meeting. If we need to.
if you need to, but if you're good with it, then that's good, right?
So the things we need to nail down then are the minimum number of hours. I do like that part. But then who the list is submitted to and the date.
And we could follow the MOA for that if everybody agrees. The MOA, we looked at it earlier, everything's due by January 1st. And it's all being submitted to Bonnie. So that piece, we could just copy from the MOA.
You wouldn't have to worry about what's due when, it's all the same. And it would beat the code.
Further discussion? So we're good to move on from there. I guess we're gonna take a 5-minute break if everybody's okay with that. Okay, guys, I think we're ready to start back. Next item on the agenda is new business. Unless there's any other old business needs to come. So for new business, emergency medical response plan. Bradley?
I'm just gonna make it super quick. For all of the rescue people, this is the same like emergency response plan that we had before, but updated. So we updated some of the wording, obviously put all the new people on it. Just look through it, review it, see if there's any changes that y'all would make. If there is, let me know, we'll change it, and then if everything's good, we'll hopefully approve it and sign it next meeting. But just wanted to put it in your hands and have you look at it.
One topic of conversation with that, not for tonight, but just to put on everybody's minds. Chief Sheeler and I were talking a little bit before the meeting, and I know it's come up with the EMS agencies in the past, but moving forward, before we adopt the updated response plan, is looking at the 5 and 10 minute intervals for second and third due. I know that's been a topic of discussion to look at reducing those times, just because of how long it's taking to get an ambulance out when a known staffed ambulance is not available. Again, with the response plan, there is that caveat in there that the chief or an officer can get on the air and cancel second due. But just something we thought we'd throw out there to talk about at a future meeting, because it's just taking more time to get an ambulance when we know one's not available.
We look at, because I think this was topic about a year ago, could we look at redoing all those mutual aid agreements? Because I know that some of them are pretty outdated.
Yeah, we can. We may even be able to like adopt this and make it like
That's
a
what I was wondering,
countywide.
because I just saw the language was maintain written, but could this just serve as, at least within the county, so that way we don't have to, and if the county could sign one with like Bradford, Giles, not that we're gonna, Bradford, Giles, Floyd, Pulaski,
Yeah.
and Roanoke, I guess Roanoke County.
Are we good
in
with
that way.
that? I'll spearhead that if that's okay. Okay with that? Okay. So I'll looking at this and trying to make that like the countywide mutual aid plan, and then see about getting those plans in place for the surrounding localities. I think that's how the code phrases it, surrounding localities, so.
We've got that lunch on the 28th that we could probably knock a lot of it out.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, that's all.
Any further discussion on
Does approval of that, who's the ultimate authority of the approval of that plan? I only ask just so does it need to go to the board?
I think
through you
it needs
guys?
to go to Angie.
Or it just goes through here directly to you?
Yep. So the way this one is, and the way the mutual aid plan is that all the chiefs sign it, or the EMS chiefs sign it, and then it goes to you, the town managers. I think that's it, as far as like the ultimate authority. But that's where it goes.
Okay, thanks.
Also, chief of police for Virginia Tech. Those are the ultimate.
All right, moving on. Fiscal year 27 budget. My agenda said Angie or Chris, did you guys?
Have they had this before today, Mike? Okay, so you had that in your pack. You want me to do this? Or what?
Oh, you go right ahead. I don't know what you're gonna say.
Okay, sometimes he does know what I'm gonna say. So this shows what your fiscal year 27 base is, so that's just based on what your current, operating budget is. And then in the next column, the recurring addition, our budget people at what you asked for to see if it was like an ongoing cost, or there's a few things, I guess, for, Richardsburg Rescue and the Special Operations Team that must be equipment, so they're just one-time items. So usually what we do in this meeting is have you guys talk about what your requests are for, and then the group can ask questions and give recommendations. Then when we're prepared, when staff and I are preparing the budget to present to the Board of Supervisors, the proposed budget will include what this group has recommended, and then the board will take action on that. So I guess if you just wanna go down the list of, in the order of the list, if that works for you guys, with Blacksburg Fire first. Or you can go in a different order.
It's all good. As everybody knows, our calls for service are increasing every year. At Blacksburg, we ran just a little over 1,600 calls for service last year. The previous few years, the cost of supplies has increased between 20 and 25%. Those costs include turnout gears, hose, apparatus parts, and other firefighter and hazard materials containment items. The maintenance and stuff due on the trucks is going up. Due to the number of calls that we respond to, the apparatus, we need to increase on maintaining our apparatus funding. And we'd also request funding in the line of somewhat of what Christiansburg is to try to stay compatible with Christiansburg.
In our budget, we're having a reoccurring funding increase. Same as Mark stated, due to increase in turnout gear costs 25%. Fire hose, nozzles, equipment, increased maintenance costs on our vehicle apparatus. Training conferences are up about 20%. Christiansburg Fire responds to 38% of all calls in the county. That does not include the town of Christiansburg, that just is Montgomery County. As population increases in the county, our call volume will continue to increase and in effect, it's going to affect our overall budget as listed above. Operational expenses outpace current funding levels, and we're facing higher repair bills and growing replacement costs for essential equipment. Without a proportional increase in our annual allocation, it becomes more difficult to sustain the level of service to the residents that they deserve. This increase that we're asking for is to try to get us better in line with the percentage of calls that we're running, and to be able to do this in gradual steps instead of one big lump step. So we're asking for a $75,000 increase in our annual budget reoccurring. We do not have any one-time additional fees. Requests.
Reiner Fire Department.
We requested a 15% increase. It's only $15,626. It's due to the increase in maintenances on the trucks, and our building's getting older, so we're having to do more repairs to it. As well as everything else has gone up. We hadn't had an increase, I think, since we've got in that building.
Blacksburg Rescue asked for an increase of 4,522. I don't think we have anybody here. Christiansburg Rescue.
So our verbiage is very similar to the fire departments, asking for a new recurring request of $75,000 due to running over 1,650 calls in the county, and those are predominantly down the Peppers Ferry corridor, which accounts for approximately 45% of our staff utilization. So obviously, the farther out we go, the more time it takes. But primarily to be used for additional wage staffing and mounting repair costs of our units, which is we've seen it too. It's just going through the roof. We are asking for a one-time request of $8,000 because we want to get an aluminum trailer very similar to what Blacksburg Rescue has, because we know our UTV is an asset to the county. and because, you know, people have come and gotten it, and obviously we want that to keep happening. We want to be an asset. What we currently have is it's basically a Bobcat trailer. It weighs about 8,000 pounds, and while most of the vehicles can pull it, maybe that's not the best, you know, it's a could or should, where if we got a 1,500-pound aluminum trailer, pretty much any four-wheel drive that is in any of the departments can pull it without adding wear and tear to that vehicle. It also makes it safer to do so just because of, you know, brake weight and everything. So that's what that is specific for.
Special ops.
So special operations team has requested an additional $40,000 recurring, to continue to replace equipment each year. We've identified several things throughout the county that we either need to add or replace something that's existing. So we've asked for that to do that over the next several years. And I'm sure that's just gonna continue. And then we've asked for $10,000 for one time for equipment for some special dive equipment for communications.
That's a good question. Sure. Can Christiansburg and Blacksburg give us, like, what your total budgets are, and then what your that staff utilization was important. Like, it's not just necessarily the number of calls, but you know how much time it takes you to get down Pepper's Ferry. So like what your total budgets are and what your total revenue is from like, revenue recovery or whatever other sources, fire funds, stuff like that. And then both of your percentages, and we can see, I think that'll help us.
Yep.
And I know that what you're asking for is probably, like you said, you're asking gradually for more. I recognize that, so if you could just show that, it'll help us with
Yep, I can get
the
that for you.
analysis.
Any other discussion?
So I don't know if it was sent out to the group. I believe the commission has a little over $8,400 left in the bank to be allocated. Bonnie, help me. $8,345. So obviously we've exceeded that by quite a bit this year. So anything exceeding that $8,300 is gonna go to the board as an additional request above and beyond what's been allocated to the commission.
Chief, I had one type of thing which we usually wouldn't. One of the unique things with your all's budget and McFinn's budget, and it relates to Elliston, is and honestly no other station. So, and as you said, you know, we're starting to pay for gas, pay for maintenance. And I say we, but you know, it's in McFinn's budget. So one of the things that we don't necessarily know what the answer is, but it's acknowledging the department's budget's gone up, and Michael's put in requests last year and then this year to pay for all the gas, and then maintenance of the vehicles, a little bit of custodial stuff in the department, which now that also reduces the burden on you all to pay for that. You all still pay for utilities on the building, which we haven't talked about, you know, that we could talk about changing that. But it's just one of the things to recognize, and I don't know exactly how to, we're definitely using a lot more gas because we're running the vehicles a lot more, you know, and all day versus just, you know, for calls or less stuff. So how does that kind of work into how you all just, you know, kind of just take last year's money and distribute this year's money? And if we're putting more money in on the on the county normal side. Yeah, I had to kind of ask too, like in Reiner, they're totally separate. You know, what the volunteers run and what our department runs. So, you know, is there something, you know, to look at there? And I don't know exactly how much money y'all spend either. So.
I think before we talked a long time ago in these meetings about like if anybody had funds they knew could be reallocated. Which obviously if people are asking for money, they don't have money to reallocate to somebody else, but did we not talk about that in the past, Billy? About,
I know we talked about
I think
when Shaw's budget kinda got absorbed back.
Shovel Rescue's budget is when we talked about reallocating money, when Shawsville Rescue dissolved. We reallocated that funding that they received, I believe, didn't we, Steve?
I think so.
Funding that they received, we redistributed it amongst the requests for the next year.
I didn't know, maybe you remember too, if like years and years ago when things were in tighter budget years, if there was a reallocation ever of people who knew.
No, I don't remember ever specifically reallocating
Yeah.
anything other than the Shaw's budget.
Maybe there was sort of a prioritization in this group of the needs.
I know we used to get our budget requests with the stipulation that turn in your budget request, but it's gotta be a zero increase on it. so
Right.
We had a few of
I
those.
do remember those years.
Yes. Maybe that's what I'm thinking of, is when it had to be zero if there was some give and take.
So I don't know if there's really an approach to like, Josh, is there, you all don't have the same expenses because the department's picking it up, but we haven't quantified that.
I know like some of the fuel, well, there's one truck we still do the fuel for. And it probably needs some maintenance too, that, you know, I know there's at least 2 trucks down there that need some maintenance that has been overlooked for a little bit, so. And they're trucks that we would primarily use, so, and not the paid staff, so.
Is that the old engine that's
the
included?
88 Pierce and the dive truck.
And the dive truck.
Yeah.
Are those used?
Yeah.
Cause I always say, we don't use them, I know that, like, it's not part of the career staff's deployment of vehicles, so. But they are in the station.
So
Are there any other thoughts about that?
I just think looking at our total increase that we're,
Right now, the revenue growth with that, if there's no tax increase, is like $1 million. And so that's how much I'm not suggesting that there's gonna be a tax rate increase or not, cause I don't have any idea. But I'm just, as a point of reference, it's about $1 million, a little over $1 million is how much revenue in addition we think we're gonna get in 27 at this point.
Everybody likes to tap dance, and not tap dance around stuff. It's 1.03 million. Schools asked for 10% already before it's gone to the school board. That was the first ask. That's 10%. That's 6.8 million above and beyond where we're at right now. That's without the county's ask, which are 30 individual asks on top of that, which haven't come through the board yet. And then the sheriff's department nickel and dime, and that's about 750 to 800,000 too. So now you're looking at a shortage, depending on how the budget falls and how things play out, of 10 to 12 million. Roughly, if you did what everybody hoped and asked for and aspirationally wants. So just be cognizant of that. I'm a big one on, hey, news like this doesn't get better over time. So it's better to be upfront and go, this is the first time in 10 years that we haven't pulled more than a certain amount of revenue. And it's an intersection of a couple of things, but it is what it is. So just be aware. Everybody else likes to tap dance and they don't want
That's
to.
because you're elected. and
I don't dance real well anyway. I'm a very upfront, so choices are gonna have to be made, decisions are gonna have to be made going forward, and it's gonna affect services and everything else going as we begin to go. So just try our best to make sure we take care of everything, but be aware. So there's your warning order.
I think a whole lot, you know, with the budget has to do with the addition of the 39 or 40 staff that Montgomery County Fire and EMS added to the budget. And then I think the schools got an increase over last year also, I believe, impact the total budget. So it is hard, it's a hard balance. I think all departments here appreciate everything the board does for us and the county administrator, assistant county administrator. We appreciate everything you do for us day in and day out. But it's when you start adding staff, it ups your ante, and we've seen that in Christiansburg with adding career staff with EMS in Christiansburg and trying to continue to add career staff with the fire department. It's a large expense.
Looks like our budget request overall is about 335,000 more than 26. Did we ask for like an itemized list when you ask for a budget request, budget increase?
Yeah, that's kind of changed over the years about how much detail we ask for. And I don't have the specific request with me, but did you guys spell out like how much of the money is for which items, or it's just the overall?
We did overall.
So is that something that would be helpful if they did a more of an itemized, it broke down what the.
Yeah, I can put that together.
I think it would be helpful, and also that, for the two biggest requests, to get the total budget and how much they're spending in the county. And then if Reiner and, could give us that, that'd be helpful too. This is kind of related, the audits are almost finished. And so when we get that back in, we'll have a little bit of better sense of how much people are spending on what kind of things, and we can see where you're having challenges too, so that should help us. I think that we're supposed to get those in the next month, like within a month, I think. Yeah. But that would be helpful.
So pending those updates as far as that, the floor is open for a motion for. We would need to ask the board for that increase in overall budgets.
Make a motion to submit the budget request as presented to the board. Consideration.
Here a second.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion is carried. Any other new business? All right, we'll move to discipline reports. McFams. Report there. Chief Smith, Blacksburg. No report. Pete Hanks.
Just a reminder to all fire departments, January 1, you should have converted all your fire incident reporting to the nearest system. That was mandated to go into effect January 1. If you are not on the nearest system, it will affect your aid to locality money. You will not get it if you're not reporting on the nearest system. That was voted on by the fire board. Just a reminder.
We've been trying to do a monthly training, like drilling down on just specific topics, and offering CEs for that. So if anybody wants to be included in that, or have your training officers get that email. We try and do it every month. It hasn't been every single month, just because of operational needs. But if you want to be included on that email list, please just let me know and we'll get you on it. We want to get as many people there as possible.
Thank you. Virginia Tech. Right and rescue.
Just a couple things. I'm gonna try to put on another class, the EBOT class sometime in March. As soon as I figure out my dates, I'll send it out to everybody. And one other thing too, I know this has been something people have asked for, is a UTV class. So I worked with Mark Bowery, and May 2nd and 3rd, we will be hosting a VFIS UTV and trailer operations trainer class. He wants, we gotta have at least a minimum of 12 to hold the class, a max of 24. If each agency will send 2 people, then I think we won't have any problem filling the class. That'll get everybody able to teach, UTV operations and trailer operations, at least in, every department, so, because I'm pretty sure everybody's got a UTV, so. But again, that's May 2nd and May 3rd, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. at our station. Once I find out the registration link, I'll send that out, or how to sign up for the class.
You can send the email out on that.
Yep.
I just got a quick question. When we went by the 911 center, portion there, I'm getting a lot of questions about calls that's not getting set off for us. We had, like yesterday, we had a, vehicle over the bank. I drove by, didn't stop or nothing, check on anybody, and they never set nobody off. They're at, everybody out around there's asking me, and I don't know what to tell them. What is y'all's parameters for setting us off?
If we have the caller on the phone and they tell us they're not injured, then it's a police-only call and not a fire and rescue call.
Okay.
So if you give me specific examples, I'll be happy to check it, like listen to recordings and check into them and see what happened. But I know there's a lot of, sometimes wrecks look really bad, car slipped over side, upside down or whatever. And then we'll have the driver on the phone and they said, yeah, I'm cool, everything's perfectly fine, I don't need rescue or anything. And then our policy is that's a no injury crash, so we don't send fire and rescue.
Okay, I just need to know something to tell them because
Yeah, if you send me the specific ones you're talking about, I can look them up and see what happens.
Report.
Michael, it's on you, buddy.
Just real quick, I'll be sending out an email to the folks on the CIP committee tomorrow to try and schedule a meeting for next week to talk about replacement stuff for next year, so be on the lookout for that.
The monthly call reports were attached in the email with the minutes.
I had one question on that. I showed that 13 calls. I actually had 16 in my ESP. I was showing 16 on my side.
I can look at it.
All right. Anything else needs to come before the commission tonight? Kept y'all a little longer than usual tonight. Hearing none, next meeting will be Thursday, February 1st.